The waiver wire after week 8 is for true sickos, so if that's you, these are the only 11 players you should be targeting. But if this is your first time here, I'm Joe. I've helped thousands of people just like you win their fantasy leagues over the last decade, and I plan to do the same for you in this video. I start off every video with some urgent fantasy football news and answer some timely Q&A. Then we get into today's one key topic, so feel free to skip ahead, but let's get right into it. Skattebo suffers season-ending ankle injury. I hope you didn't see it live. It obviously was pretty gruesome. He went down in the second quarter against the Eagles after his ankle got caught beneath the defender. So the injury was so brutal that the broadcast didn't even show a replay. He was carted off, taken to the hospital. Reports are already saying that he won't return this season, obviously. Major shakeup for the Giants backfield. Tyrone Tracy now steps into that lead role, and that could make him one of the most popular waiver ads, if not the most popular waiver ad going into week 9. So prayers for Skattebo. Hate seeing this stuff, especially for a guy that leaves it out on the field every single week, and we wish him the best going forward. Justin Fields. Looks like it was a pretty emotional win for him. Obviously, the Jets get their first win of the season. He rebounded from a pretty brutal week, nearly losing his job. Tyrod Taylor ultimately couldn't even go to an injury due to an injury, but they were able to rally back from a 15-point fourth quarter deficit to stun the Bengals 39-38. Threw for 241, a touchdown, even added a 2-point conversion, and a clutch falling down throw to Isaiah Davis on another big conversion. So it was a huge performance. Obviously, it secures his starting job for now, but gives a big boost to this offense in general. Players like Breece Hall, who scored twice, also threw the game winner, which was absolutely huge. But yeah, Justin Fields, shout out to you, my man. Nice to see a guy work through some adversity like that. On the subject of adversity, Saints rookie quarterback Tyler Shough has replaced Spencer Rattler. We'll see if that ends up being what we see going forward, but midway through the game against the Bucs, another turnover-filled first half for Spencer Rattler. 40th overall pick for Shough. They kind of have to see what they have, so he came off the bench, got his first real game action, and then he took over. I think it's just something we're kind of tracking from a fantasy perspective right now. If Rattler's leash is going to be this short, we could see like a true quarterback change that impacts Chris Olave and the rest of this offense pretty substantially. Pat Surtain appears to have suffered a left pectoral injury. Yeah, tough news out of Denver in this one. Obviously, one of the best corners in the entire league, if not the best. And it kind of, you see him twisting awkwardly on this tackle, and he was kind of holding his arm as he walked off. Sean Payton didn't give us much of an update afterwards, but if Surtain misses time, this is one that obviously is a big hit to this Broncos defense, and it could make some of the matchups coming up a little bit more attractive for some opposing wide receivers. So we'll see where this leads us over the coming weeks. Also, a couple things rapid fire. It looks like Jakobi Meyers. It looks like they might not be trading him, but people that are trying to trade for him are not getting a clear read from the Raiders. So we'll see if Jakobi Meyers ends up being on the move. Puka Nacua is expected to practice this week and likely to play in week 9 against the Saints. So nice that we're getting Puka back and that he'll be fully healthy after that ankle injury. Nico Collins and his concussion doing well, trending towards returning. So that's great news for Nico Collins. Owners, Brian Thomas Jr., there were a little bit of trade rumors there as well, but it seems they have no plans on moving on from Brian Thomas Jr., so that's also great to see. Saquon Barkley, an absolute huge game against the Giants through the air, on the ground, broke a bunch of big plays, so it was really nice to see that as he absolutely erupts, but he does have a groin injury that popped up, not believed to be serious, but something that we're going to be monitoring as well and seeing if he's available this coming week. But in general, really nice to see Saquon get back on track this week and show some major ceiling. All right, jumping into some Q&A, got some really good questions on the last video, so really appreciate that, guys. There's going to be another video tomorrow going through trade targets and some of my favorite guys' rest of season. So if you drop your comments below this video, I'll try and get to as many of them as I can on that video as well. If there's any trades that you're debating or if there's any players that you're wondering kind of where I'm valuing them rest of season, that would be the place to do it. But let's jump in. Just traded Addison for Garrett Wilson. I'm 5-2. He was 2-5. So it made sense for both of us. Yeah, obviously him not having Garrett Wilson when he needs wins. These are the types of trades that you should definitely be trying to do as a 5-2 team. I'm definitely doing that in some leagues, trying to basically consolidate some depth or make some 1v1 trades as well that I like in that favor. Yeah, I'm with you. I think I have Garrett Wilson slightly ahead of Jordan Addison, but I'm pretty bullish on Addison in general, so it does feel like kind of a win-win. He gets a player for down the road, and then if you're valuing Garrett Wilson significantly higher than Addison rest of season, then you're in a pretty good spot as well going into the fantasy playoffs. So nice job. I was offered a trade Derrick Henry and Rome Odunze for Javonte Williams. Should I take that trade? Yeah. Honestly, I have Rome Odunze alone higher than Javonte Williams rest of season. If you're getting Derrick Henry and Rome Odunze, that's a home run. One of the most lopsided ones I've seen in a while. So congrats to you. Should I trade Pickens for Henry? A lot of Pickens questions, I guess, with CD coming back. So George Pickens versus Derrick Henry. I prefer Derrick Henry in this deal. I was pretty bullish on Pickens going into the season where he was being drafted, but now I honestly just want as many of these Ravens players as possible. We saw Derrick Henry score 2 touchdowns last week. Even when Lamar comes back, I think it's only better times ahead for these Ravens. So hopefully you've been kind of listening. We've been trying to acquire this guy for weeks now. But Pickens versus Henry specifically, I do like Derrick Henry rest of season. Do you think Pickens for Waddle and Chase Brown? Yeah, this one's interesting. Chase Brown and Waddle together. I think that basically Pickens and Waddle is somewhat of a wash. I think I'd probably prefer Pickens, but it is close. Getting Chase Brown on top of that, if you do have running back issues, I think the value for both of them, I would want both players. If you value Pickens significantly higher than Jalen Waddle, I'm fine with you staying there. But yeah, I think that's a nice return. Should I trade Jalen Waddle for Odunze? I like Rome Odunze by a significant margin on that one. So yeah, Rome for me over Jalen Waddle. What do you think about me trading Kyron Williams for Flowers and for Kyron Williams and Flowers, apologies, for Rashee Rice and Derrick Henry? Another one of these ones that feels pretty lopsided to me, Rashee Rice and Derrick Henry by a pretty large margin. George Pickens versus Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze for me. Yeah, I have him ahead in my rest of season rankings by a decent margin. As you can tell, I am a big Rome Odunze guy. What would I be able to get out of Jeanty and AJ Brown? Yeah, I like these questions. This is an example of one that you could add below the video right now for the rest of season video coming out next. So players that we could get for Jeanty and AJ Brown. So in my opinion, we'll kind of be looking at like the best case scenario. You could get to like a Devontae Adams or Rome Odunze, a Nico Collins for AJ Brown. Those would be my targets probably. Maybe like an Emeka Egbuka if they're willing to part ways with him. We'll see. Ashton Jeanty, I would like to back into like maybe upgrading into like a Brock Bowers or getting into someone like Bucky Irving, Breece Hall, something like that. If you can get like Javonte Williams or Bucky Irving for Ashton Jeanty, I would absolutely be making that trade right now. Even like a Tet McMillan, I think he's right there in that range. Brock Bowers, those type of guys. Yeah. Good question, though, because I'm basically just looking at who are guys directly ahead of them in my rest of season rankings that people might not be valuing them correctly, essentially. Good question, though. Another Jeanty question. Trade away Jeanty and Woody Marks for Odunze and Charbonnet. Yeah, I like that deal for you. So I have Rome ahead of Jeanty, and I also have Zach Charbonnet basically right there with Woody Marks. So this basically becomes Jeanty versus Odunze for me, and it's Odunze for me. Traded Rico, Dowdle, and Juwan Jennings for Kittle. Is that a win? Yeah, this is an interesting one. I'm not really that big on Juwan Jennings. Actually just moved him in one of my most important leagues. And Rico Dowdle, I think we've already seen that it's going to be more of a committee than we would like. So if you really need to upgrade at tight end, I do like Kittle the rest of the way. I think Kittle's the best player in this deal. So if you're in a position where you can kind of unload some depth for an upgrade at tight end, I'm totally okay with that. All right, if you didn't get your question answered today, I do answer each and every question in my season-long community, my year-round season-long community. I'll have you covered from draft season, in season, and postseason. Obviously, everything you need to win your draft. Just definitely for the more experience, but also gets the more serious fantasy players. So check it out. Link in the description, fantasyaccelerator.com. If you're not ready for the membership community just yet, though, I do give away my top 150 rankings completely free. Top150free.com. Just put your email in there and you can unlock those rankings for this week. And yeah, link in the description for this as well. Appreciate it. All right, today's one key topic, 11 players that you'll regret leaving on your waiver wire, week 9. So yeah, as we kind of progress through this one, obviously there's some of these players that are not available on waiver wires, but there's a few of them that I just want to highlight. If they are available, you should go grab them. I try and keep it to 50% and below, but let's talk about the number one player on waivers. It's Tyrone Tracy. Obviously with this Cam Skattebo injury, that dislocated ankle, not going to be returning this season. So Tyrone Tracy locked in as an RB1 the rest of the year. He has a proven floor. Even kind of when the game scripts collapse, he's been someone that's been very active. I don't really think that Devin Singletary is going to be a big part of this offense. So Tracy is definitely going to be a feature back 15 to 20 touches weekly going forward. So he's someone that I think that is going to be locked in. Big play burst, already shown it on tape multiple times, but I think that now that Skattebo is out of the way, it's one of those like 15 touch running backs you can get off of waivers. It doesn't happen very often. So it's kind of like that plug and play volume that we really want. And he's someone that I would be kind of unloading the clip for on the waiver wire. A lot of probably like the rest of your fab type of player. Let's talk about Bam Knight. So available in 81.3% of leagues. He's a lead back, definitely has real volume here. So 17 touches versus Michael Carter's 9 in week 7. And the last 3 games without Trey Benson, 142 scrimmage yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and the role has really just been translating into points. And the schedule really gets nice fast for the Cardinals. Week 9, they have the Cowboys, and definitely a big-time matchup for them. They just coming off bye, obviously. I think the offense looked at least serviceable in week 6 and 7, so enough to like sustain a primary running back. And I think he's really just jumped ahead of Michael Carter at this point. So I think we're really prioritizing this matchup coming up. And I think just in general, someone that can give you a really nice workload off the waiver wire. Another guy that we were really high on coming into the season that took a while to kind of cook a little bit, RJ Harvey, available in 34.7% of leagues. So he's not available everywhere, like I said, but we get this efficiency spike last week. 3 touchdowns, just 17 snaps. So really his usage didn't change. It was really just what he was able to do on those touches. But these are the situations where I think he's probably earned more work, essentially. So basically, the red zone trust is something, at least at the running back position, that we really have to focus on in these committees. Who is going to be out there in the red zone? Who is going to be out there and have a chance at some of these even like receiving looks around the goal line, all of that? He's definitely a dual threat guy, so he has path to more points if he is going to get a little bit more volume, which I think he's earned. And I could see this guy being a league winner down the stretch as he has the talent. He just needs the opportunity. So if basically if J.K. Dobbins were to go down, RJ Harvey has to be one of the better options to be able to come in and produce right away. And I think if you're basically treating him as like a touchdown-driven flex for right now, he might potentially have some more upside down the road if the red zone usage sticks and he gets a little bit more work in the run game as well. Samaje Perine, available in 94.2% of leagues. His role is expanding under Flacco is what the kind of the macro setup is here. He had 9 carries for 96 yards. He had a 32-yard touchdown in this game. The Bengals basically rotating backs gave Perine multiple red zone carries over Chase Brown, which is definitely actionable. I don't know if it was necessarily a fluke either. New season highs as the offense has really just opened up with Joe Flacco since week 7. The environment really is just providing basically just a tailwind for everyone involved, all the ancillary pieces, all of that. So week 8, his first 100-yard scrimmage game since 2022, basically just showing us that it has a little bit more of a ceiling even inside a committee and kind of a hidden gem. I think the committee shift is interesting in this situation. It basically was like a 50-50 split. And Perine was the one that was getting the money touches. So that's kind of the lever that can swing TD equity and also really just giving us a lot of production despite the perception that this offense isn't one to be heavily invested in. And realistically, the number 2 could end up being more of like a 1A, 1B situation before long. And if they're going to continue to let Flacco just let it cook underneath, he might have a lot of opportunities in the passing game as well. So I really like this Perine pickup this week. Woody Marks. Probably not available in a ton of leagues. 37.2% of leagues is what I'm seeing. Explosive usage here, obviously. He's kind of a flex that you can touch or that you can trust at this point. 11 for 62 rushing, 4 for 49 on 4 targets versus San Francisco. Couple splash plays, 23-yard run, 50-yard catch. So you get really just like bankable volume, but also some week-winning juice here. So 24 of his 62 rush yards came after contact. So not just in space, he's creating his own yards, which is kind of what we want to see for this type of guy who's going to have to create some yards behind a really tough offensive line situation. So the efficiency has been greater than the opportunity so far. It's actually not a bad thing going down the stretch because if we start to see more volume, he's someone that has already given us efficiency. And what if this is like our last shot to get him? So if he's available for some reason in your league, he should not be on waiver wires. Let's talk about wide receivers. So we talked about 5 running backs. We're going to talk about 5 wide receivers, and then we're going to talk about 1 tight end who should not be on waiver wires as well. To recap, Woody Marks, Samaje Perine, RJ Harvey, Bam Knight, Tyrone Tracy. Let's talk about wide receiver. Troy Franklin. the number 2 in Denver. So Denver's offense obviously is trending up. We were just talking about RJ Harvey, and I think Franklin is one of the ones that's been rising the most. 89 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 44-17 blowout. Really just that spike week ceiling that we've already seen on tape, and obviously that 42-yard shot down the field. These explosive plays are what I really want. If I have a wide receiver too, either as my flex or as a potential just guy on my bench that I'm waiting, I really want to have like really big upside potential for these guys. So the amount of routes, the targets that he's going to get, the volume underneath is great, but I want someone that I can actually give that can actually drop 30 points and actually give me that upside, that path to winning weeks. So Denver's really just been stacking wins since week 4, and I think the red zone trips and just like the sustained touchdown chances that we're going to get from Denver is not going away anytime soon. If anything, the trust is kind of building for Franklin. 10 targets in week 7. The team is comfortable featuring him. 8 targets in week 4 as well. So like we really just kind of have seen the ADOT shift a little bit. That 42-yard strike, absolutely huge. And I think this is probably your last shot to get him on the waiver wire. He's really Denver's breakout wide receiver too. So anytime a guy scores a couple times, he's going to be popular. But I do really like the idea of Troy Franklin. Played him on a couple DFS teams this week and was pretty happy about it, obviously. Tez Johnson. This one's always interesting. Available in 56% of leagues. He's kind of like that Tank Dell, really small player, but the intangibles are definitely real. And he's been able to do a lot with not a ton of volume originally. But I think that he's someone that the opportunity as it opens up has taken advantage of it a ton. Snaps have climbed, and Puka basically has managed all of the early and kind of all the targets that Evans has vacated. And Puka has basically taken over, but Tez has stepped right into like real routes and targets as well. So targets since week 6 have been climbing. He had 3, then 9 and 6. So it's really just been like a stable involvement after that spike. And then the touchdowns in week 6 and 7 prove that he's really just being trusted in those high leverage moments. And the team environment is really strong for wide receiver volume specifically. The Bucs play in high scoring games. They have a strong offense. They're perfect for passing volume, all of those things. The opponents have piled up the 12th most passing yards per game versus this defense. So Tampa's games typically kind of stay pretty throw heavy. So I like that. I think that the window is closing here as well with him. Someone that we've talked about, I feel like in 3 straight weeks now, but still is available in way too many leagues, available in 72.9% of leagues, Kayshon Boutte. He's on an absolute downfield heater. 4 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks, including a 39-yard strike in week 8 and another 39-yarder in week 7. So really just a real downfield connection from Drake May. He's led all Patriots wide receivers in snaps, and the role is pretty sticky heading into week 9. So trying to grab, I guess, pieces around Drake May, who's definitely an MVP candidate at this moment. I think the hidden gem is Kayshon Boutte. The touchdowns are basically arriving without a lot of crazy volume, but he's cashing in on the few targets that he's getting with some splash plays and really just giving us a lot of proof and that he can be a big kind of a cheaper shot, but really just kind of give us the ceiling that we need that we can't always find on the waiver wire. All right, let's talk about Chimray DK, available in 94% of leagues. Chimray DK, I know you guys were all over me in the comments for not saying his name correctly last time. Apologies, you're not here for me pronouncing names correctly, but I will try and do better. Basically, with DK, he's been earning targets when he's been on the field, and that's something that I really am paying attention to. Guys like this, like his targets per route run is pretty strong, 23%. Week 3 route rate, or week 6 route rate, I should say, is 31 of 46 dropbacks. So when Ridley sat, he kind of just commanded looks and not just like screen passes. So he kind of like began as more of a returner, but his injuries kind of opened up. The snaps and the staff has really every reason to keep feeding DK, and I think they will. It's not just like a one drive mirage or anything, or a 1 week mirage, anything like that. He said some really splash plays, but with Ward's like early growing pains, I should say, back-to-back production is even more noteworthy for DK, in my opinion. So I think before the role kind of locks in, I think this is a guy that we really want to grab as kind of a rising rookie in a Titans offense that's actively developing, I guess is a nice way to put it. But let's talk about Trey Tucker. Available in 53.7% of leagues. It's a real role as well. 5+ targets in back-to-back games, 95 yards offensive faceplant in week 7 for this offense, 5 for 5 and 70 in week 6. So week 6 and week 7, he still basically held his usage in good and bad game scripts. So team best 33-yard grab in week 5. He's really one of those guys that I think the path could clear fast. We talked about Jacoby Myers. We'll see. He says he for sure wants to be traded, And I guess they're being a little bit difficult on the Raiders side. So if that window does close, it does hurt Tucker a little bit. But if he for some reason gets traded, his value could absolutely explode after that deal. So I think the downfield pop is pretty real. I think that we're going to continue to see some of these really big plays. He's kind of like a sneaky wide receiver ad who could definitely pay off if things really go right. I thought we should touch on Oronde Gadsden, who's admittedly rostered in 67% of leagues. Normally, I only cover players that are under 50%, but he's earned a mention here. 12 catches, 241 yards, 2 TDs over his last 2 games. So if he's still out there for some crazy reason, grab him now. That's it for today. Tomorrow, we're going to walk through my favorite players to trade for and the guys that I think have the best shot to be league winners rest of season. So hit subscribe and drop your questions in the comments. I'll answer as many as I can live. See you soon.